Greetings, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles, and welcome to my AngeloRobles.com. Specifically, this video is about my family office masterclasses. Really, it's my lifelong achievement in the community with what I love to do. I love to learn, research, and I love to educate. And after being in this community for over 20 years and traveling the world and having known thousands of family offices, I hope there's a thing or two that I might have learned along the way. Specifically, my focus on the single family office community. However, a lot of what I teach crosses over to multifamily office and the rising virtual family office, which effectively is a takeoff, in my opinion, of the single family office. In this video, what I'd like to do is highlight some areas that I've learned over the years, and as opposed to being focused on one specific masterclass, because I host several, give you a light overview of really my full schedule of masterclasses. First of all, I look to immerse you. I believe the industry has gotten tired, boring, and really it's not practical. Have they really been in the trenches? Have they traveled the world? Do they know the nuances of families, not just in North America, but in Europe, in Latin America, and Asia? You have to have boots on the ground. You have to go there. You have to meet with the families and the family office executives, and to some degree, those that service the community. There's a rhyme, it's different in each area, but there's certain similarities you begin to pick up and kind of connect the dots. So what I learned from being in close alignment, really close alignment with multiple dozen global family offices, as I've said before, they focus on identifying the right opportunity that's far better and more important than wasting time on mediocre opportunities. Don't forget, as I've always said, a genius intellect can be wasted on the wrong opportunity. Part of genius optimization, of course, is to focus on the right opportunity. There are certain truths which are universal that I've learned in my travels around the world as being the founder of Family Office Association, which I had an exit in 2023, and the work that I've done one-on-one with families really going back for many, many years. Kind of some universal truths I guess I could share. Bad family offices, to me, kind of a majority, want to be left alone. Don't shine a spotlight on us. It's all good. Don't worry. Good family offices want to be mentored, but great ones, the very few, want to be told the truth. Even when you're benchmarking, who are you benchmarking to? The industry is not standardized enough and doesn't have enough quantifiable metrics outside of areas perhaps on investing and risk mitigation. Therefore, it's difficult. It is somewhat subjective, meaning qualitative. And to some degree, it depends really on how the family feels, which can change quite frequently. So I look at the most important thing to most families is going to be continuity. It's going to be their rising generation. And this goes back to some of my travels that I mentioned before around the world, and even recently, just a couple of months ago, to Europe, meeting and interviewing. Some of them are up on my YouTube and Family Office TV platforms. Families like the Habsburgs and like others that not only go back hundreds of years, some of them go back over 1,000 years of continuous wealth. So there's lots of lessons we could all learn. So this has all led me down the path of what is currently out there from an educational and masterclass perspective, and really not being impressed. I think there are pockets of niche knowledge that I think is okay. I think there's some things being done here in the US and around the world, including at universities, that isn't bad. But I see some things that are too siloed, many things that are somewhat conflicted, just professors or one from one university, their perspective, their inherent biases, etc., which, again, many of us all have. And then I look at it a little bit some areas of conflict and also how they bombard people for charitable contributions. But really, what is your practical experience? Don't give it to me from theory. What's your practical experience building an SFO, running an SFO, and being in the trenches? And for the most part, you'll find it's very abysmal. A lot of the industry, it's just simply boring and dry. You're hearing the same things about governance and about investing, and it's not adding anything new. The industry is still opaque, and it still is confusing to people. And I know I make some in the industry upset when I do say, and I'm not the only one, there's other thought leaders I respect, that collectively as a whole, the industry is a lot of mediocrity. Forget about the mathematical accuracy of the comment. It could be so much better. And really, when you focus on probably my core strength, it really is on channeling my Peter Drucker, my Jim Collins, and practice management. Because I really believe that practically any family office could go with a level of competency, identifying blind spots, and moving ego aside from mediocrity to good. As Jim Collins does right, kind of the chasm, I guess you could say, from good to great, which may only be 10%, that is harder. And not everyone is going to achieve that. But shouldn't that be the goal? Shouldn't greatness be the goal? Shouldn't continuity in the family and quote unquote protecting and growing the wealth and the legacy and all that encompasses, which is a lot. To some degree, is it somewhat of a thankless job? To some degree it is, but hopefully you're being compensated, quote unquote, properly for that. And you have an obligation and inner pride in you to be the best that you could be. So perhaps I'll start a little bit with some of the programs that I do teach. Now, initially, I came out with 2 core programs. And those were creating a top 1% lofty goal, family office, and really something that spurred from a significant consulting assignment of mine during COVID and of great interest to me, being interested in the economy, geopolitics, and much else. And that is sovereign risk and disaster preparedness, effectively for the super rich. I have both of those built out. They're about 24 hours of content and a premium in terms of pricing. I realize they're not going to be for quote unquote for everyone. And by the way, I update them constantly because how the world works, it doesn't seem to be changing in spurts of 10 years, seems to almost be changing daily. I practically, even with my team and my researchers, kind of can't keep up with it. It's hard. And by the way, these programs, even my short ones, of course, it's not just me. That would get monotonous, even though I try to be immersive and quasi-dynamic, I think, compared to a very vanilla, quote-unquote, industry. That, again, I also believe in practicality. What's going to make you better? In the first hour, I'm dropping bombs on you that are just great that you could walk away with and take action on. So, yes, I have what I believe is a true masterclass really is effectively days and days. It's like 24 hours of content. But I understand in today's world, it's a little harder. So I've created a series of more intimate, often 3 to 5 hour programs, sometimes in one day or part of one day, and sometimes over 2 evenings to kind of break them down. And it's not just me. As I've traveled the world, I'll take pride in maybe throw something out there that I hope I can live up to. I kind of know a lot of people. I know people in the single family office as a family, as an executive, and that's the anchor of what I do. I know people in the community. And when I meet with incredible families, from dealing with a $20 billion German family to incredible iconic families in greater Greenwich, Connecticut, which is kind of my backyard when I'm not in the great state of Wyoming, in Jackson Hole, in Silicon Valley, Austin, Miami, LA, there's incredible families, including, as I said, around the world. And I have something to learn from all of them. One thing that I will say is when I go into a family office that is incredible, that is great, it hits you in the face. Effectively, it's just so obvious. I mean, I spoke to one really just a couple of days ago that is a multi-billion-dollar with a lean team, and they're active in direct investing because they know how to structure that. We'll get to that in a little while, and how to work within holding companies and build, quote unquote, or with operators. All things I have a masterclass dedicated to. We'll touch upon that one perhaps in a little more detail shortly. What I do know is that a true family empire really is only built, in my opinion and my experiences, through the ownership and control of private companies. If you make it all passive, does it simplify things? Yes. Is there some liquidity benefits? Yes. Should, of course, families have liquidity? Obviously. But if you make it too easy, everything is within trust, every decision is made for you, you're removed from the process, you don't develop a sense, forget even the word stewardship, of a sense of family pride and legacy, of responsibility and accountability. And the great thing about buying companies and being active in companies is you roll up your sleeves. It teaches you how the real world works. It teaches you from sourcing to vetting, to negotiation, to terms, to financing, to actually running, being in the trenches of business. And that's what a lot of these families that have sustained generation after generation after generation do. It doesn't mean you're always starting the company. Look at Elon Musk with Tesla. He didn't start Tesla, but he obviously built it into something, beyond incredible. So back a little bit to the core focus on some of the more intimate masterclasses, because I get it, 24 or 26 hours is going to be too much and possibly too expensive for, quote unquote, for some of you. So the opportunity to give you a taste in my more intimate programs, and some of them are 3 or 4 hours, some 5 or 6. And again, sometimes boom in one day, and a lot of it is virtual, but you're still live. There is a difference to it being digitally recorded, which I think has value. But now if it's digitally live via StreamYard, Zoom, or another platform, meaning you're there, you're participating, you're being more immersed in either my stories and your ability to interact. And I think, to me at least, that's very important. Does anything quite beat face-to-face? No. We're humans, and I hope that will never change. But that being said, the world has adapted. We need to adapt with it. And I think doing most of these virtually, digitally, whether it's Zoom or another more quote-unquote private platform, allows you the ability to still be immersed and to interact. And I could do these, which I love to do. I love to teach. I love to be more broad in terms of the audience that I reach. It could be entrepreneurs. It could be people that are already quote-unquote decabillionaires. It could be family offices. It could be wannabe, which is so many family offices. There are millions of people that service the community, college students, high school students, and really, honestly, I think it touches millions of people. Don't be stuck within the box of the definition of a single family office and the family office community. All of that is changing and changing rapidly. Again, in many ways, I think it's harder now, harder than it might have been even 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. I know we have more freedom in terms of our knowledge and research, and often that overwhelms us, often because it really isn't that good. And even AI, which I'm a huge advocate of looking to the future, and I do think it's going to radically change everything that we know in the family office community, but it's not quite there yet. And it still has many quote unquote flaws, as we're kind of seeing play out a little bit in real life. So on to a little bit of some of the programs that I do these masterclasses on. And some of you may see them up on angelorobles.com. There may be a little snippet on my homepage. You have to sometimes scroll down a little bit or go to my Masterclass tab or my Direct Deals tab. And I'm also active in social media on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and so many other platforms where you could find me. Go and subscribe. And there's some content that I love to give away for free. I love to share some knowledge and experiences and interviews that I do in Family Office TV with amazing people. I did state before an important part as a faculty, what I call the dream team beyond me, and that opportunity for me to go and meet, and having known so many incredible families around the world, you bet you, I ask them, like, who's your banker, who's your accountant, who's your auditor, who's your attorney? Sometimes they share, sometimes even if I know them well, they don't. They keep it close to the vest. But over the years, and being active in my decades in the community, I've built up a significant Rolodex, even outside of families, what I consider to be a dream team as to who the best of the best in accounting and legal and finance and tech and cyber, in a lot of different things. And there's nuances in a lot of that. There's some people that are just incredible at structuring the art and science of a family office, which is very, very important. And of course, it is nuanced in different countries. And the tax situation gets complex and the state transfer. You really have to know who the players are. So sometimes for my relationships, I kind of am a connector of the dots. At the end of the day, what matters? Results and often access, even for the families. Nothing beats results. What's the issue? What's the problem? Or what's the opportunity? Don't underestimate opportunity. It doesn't have to all be negative. So results and access. Significant families desire greatly to meet other significant families and or SFO executive to SFO executive. So kind of helping connect the dots and providing even what I would say is even the hottest opportunities for families. We all have to adapt what we do. I believe we have it in us. You know, people always tell us just be yourself. The reality is for 99, maybe 99.9%, that's not good enough. And you should tell your children this as well. They need to be the best version of themselves. And it should start today. The opportunity for them to be focused, to have purpose, of course, to have love in their heart, empathy and passion, and have some sense of desire in terms of who they are and what they want to be. I think these are all important topics, and some of these integrate into my programs. But on to a little bit about some of my programs that you could all reach out to me. Maybe you want me to custom do a masterclass for your family or your company, things that I've done multiple times over even just the last couple of months. So some of them would include, and some of them do cross over in their content, building a family empire, a verbiage that I used before. It's more than just creating a company or buying companies, although sure, that could be a part of it. And now we're talking about unique governance and family dynamics and mitigating risk, and how do you have continuity that could go beyond the commonality of only 2 or 3 generations. And again, this is something we don't need to make it a 24-hour masterclass. It can be far more intimate than that. One that I kind of hinted at earlier that has become very near and dear to me is how to implement a direct deal strategy in your family office. Y'all have been lied to. It is not as complicated as the private equity and some family offices make it out to be. Now, if you're a 5, 10, 15 billion dollar USD family office and you want to swing around with looking at giant private companies and competing with private equity, then yes, it gets more complicated. It could also have more reward, especially if there's some kind of turnaround involved. And there's some families that could swim in that pond and need to have the bench of talent for that. But the majority, even $1, $2, $3 billion families, could be very, very active. Being active in companies that are actually producing revenue. This is not VC where it's what could be. Look at sometimes what is. Look at reality. There's never been more businesses for sale. A lot of them are owned by baby boomers, a large generation that is effectively aging out. A lot of their children don't necessarily want to be involved in taking over these businesses. And this is a great way for your rising generation as well to feel engaged, to reignite kind of a wealth engine in them. And I walk you through effectively, and I could do it in 2 hours, but when I have special guests on, in 4 hours. This is one of my upcoming master classes. Maybe I'll even do this one every month because I believe it's going to be very popular. And it's not just me. One of the people I have on was the right-hand man for a massive deal maker worth billions and billions of dollars. And this person was right there in the trenches year after year. And is going to reiterate what I said. You could do this with a lean but high quality staff, because a lot of it with quote unquote private companies is the capability of knowing how to structure a holding company and then building operating resources often in the companies that you're already buying, but knowing how to negotiate in terms and non-competes and who to leave on and who to take off and how to structure with the current owner or shareholder group. So yes, it's part art and part science, but don't make it harder than it needs to be. This is a tremendous opportunity to get true alpha, build an empire, and have a legacy and an engagement in your family that is not passive. That's not going to work generation after generation. It just makes your life easier. So don't be misled by the industry and the community. I know multiple multi-billion-dollar family offices, and you're going to hear from one, and I'll probably get others, maybe anonymously, that want to come on, that have a team of like 5 or 7 people in the family office, and they're doing $1 billion or more in private companies. They know what they're doing with a variety of things, but including the holding company and operating. And we talk about that in this masterclass. It's a no-brainer. Of course you should be participating in this masterclass. It may be up in the direct deals section of my AngeloRobles.com now, or somewhere in my masterclass section. Keep an eye on my socials because I have other ones upcoming. I'll promote them. Another one that I could probably be more succinct in 60 to 90 minutes and talk about practice management in the family office. It's the one thing, yes, that's what I called it, the one thing to turn around any family office. I could almost assure you, you're going to go from mediocrity to good. And if you're good, I might even be able to take you to very good. I don't know about great, just with one idea. Now, sure, do you have to listen? Do you have to work at it? And you have to execute. But I will tell you, it's not hard. Now, I'll build into that over the course of 90 minutes and share ancillary ideas, but a lot of it comes down just to one kind of simple thing. By the way, you may not like it because it makes your job harder as a C-level executive. It makes you way more hands-on. I mean, that gets me a little off track. And I mentioned earlier virtual and remote family offices. I think there is a way to do it. I'll probably develop a masterclass on that. But for the most part, what do I think of most remote work and virtual family offices? I think they're a joke. Come on, you're kidding me. Especially if you're onboarding newer people, and especially if they're younger and dynamic, they need to be part of something at least multiple days where they're coming in, they're immersed, they're being held accountable, and they're learning. And I'm someone who loves technology. I do believe in a global workforce. I do believe there's interest in setting up satellite family offices in Switzerland and Singapore, and I'm all into that. I've been there and I've done that. I've created family offices and restructured for dozens of families. But I'm sorry, it's probably hard to be great. You might be able to be okay or good in the vast majority of remote, aka virtual family offices. More in detail in my masterclasses, and potentially how to do it kind of right. Some of you have been more familiar with my exceptionalism in a family office, which is probably my most soup to nuts in 4 hours of anything that I do. And I update it all the time, and it gets better and better. And by the way, in these digital masterclasses, not only are you live and immersed, of course I'm recording, and you get that. I'm working within some framework of a PowerPoint and PDF. I give you that as well. And then to top it off, because I think some of it is customizable and some people are still shy, even when it's live digitally, you do get you get 1 hour with me. Within 30 days after that, you could ask me anything and I'll gladly kind of give away whatever I know. Hopefully it's enough to be able to help you with your issue. So I give you a lot, and this is all priced incredibly, shockingly cost effectively. But like they say in American football, sometimes 3-yard runs ain't so bad. You got to keep the chains moving. And this allows me to build greater clients and relationships. And yes, some of them are going to want more significant relationship with me. I'm an advisory board member to some family offices. I've consulted to multiple, as I noted. And for some people, maybe the significant 24 hours of deep immersion in certain master classes or more one-on-ones are kind of important for them. So I did mention before, some of my deeper ones are like creating a top 1% family office, and my sovereign risk and disaster preparedness. Sometime in the spring, I will do a 3 to 4 hour kind of the virtual digital variation of that, that again will be more succinct, still give you, I think, a lot of information and be way more cost effective than my, 5-figure pricing on significant more 24-hour programs. For younger audiences and others, given that I've researched and have met with so many billionaires and incredible people, there is a program. I kind of have it already done, but I may roll it out closer to late spring, early summer, but it fits into a 3 or 4 hour program called Mindset and Traits of Billionaires. And again, on all these programs, it's not just me. I have a different team of dream team and thought leaders, current and ex SFO executives, entrepreneurs, incredible accountants, attorneys, bankers, deal makers, like you name it. And we try to get the best out of them. If you want to learn about working in a family office, about compensation, about technology, these are all things that we dive into. I kind of hinted at it with building a family empire and implementing a direct deal strategy for your family office masterclass, but there is weaved into that is teaching the rising generation about business and buying companies. Kind of a sensitive topic of mine. I don't really get a lot of 4-year universities in business or even MBA programs and discounted cash flows, which sometimes provide value. They're often overkill, by the way. We complicate things that are often relatively simple. Honestly, sometimes in a couple of hours to perhaps over a couple of weeks. But probably you don't need 4 or 6 years to really learn a lot about how the world works, the economy, money, finance, and effectively private companies. Let's not make it hard. So I'm a big believer in the rising generation having capacity and capability. And this kind of checks the box on capability, learning, which leads to anti-fragility, but also helps to teach some level of capacity as well. Because if you get too stagnant and you lack the ability to adapt, then again, what you're learning now, potentially even some of it from me, it just becomes antiquated. I've learned that just not everything is evergreen. I'm sorry, you want your life to be easier. It's just not how it is. And of course, I do have to cover one, which I've done some little 40-minute programs kind of like on my platforms, like just no cost. Again, some things I do want to give away, at least a snippet of it, but provide value. So another one that perhaps the last one I'll mention is the future of the family office. That does relate a little bit to technology, the future of AI, but perhaps I'm going to give away a little bit. The secret is looking to the past. I pride myself on some level of capability of some level of intellectual prowess, of research, of respecting the past, of having mentors. I look at history as being something that's important. I personally enjoy philosophy and poetry, but that's just me. But I think all these things help. Probably among the most important things we need to do is to think critically. And I do think we need to think for ourselves. And maybe that's what school should be doing, teaching us to be critical thinkers and to formulate our own opinion. Unfortunately, it goes down the road that is often biases and people that have been entrenched in such institution year after year after year. And sometimes in the case of business and actual practicality, what the hell do they know? If they did it at all, it was years and years ago. It's a system to collect big dollars and to spread things out over a number of years that it's probably overrated. Now, depending on what school and the brand that provides, as well as the network, now we're talking maybe the real value, often in Ivy Leagues and others, coupled with the experience of growing up, becoming more mature. All those things are valuable. I completely get it. For the majority of people, I would still recommend it. But I think you have to learn in terms of actually learn to think for yourself. And I think that's a very, very important thing that we've kind of lost a little bit of focus on. So all of these kind of programs that I'm mentioning, building a family empire, how to implement a direct deal strategy for your family office, creating a top 1% family office, the future family office, teaching rising generation, mindset and traits of billionaires, sovereign risk and disaster preparedness, exceptionalism in a family office, and the one thing from practical management that could basically change everything. All these things I love to do. I love to teach. I'm lucky to have a quote unquote a great faculty, as I call it, as I noted. And this can be done digitally and virtual, and you still get so much from me for an incredible, reasonable price. I'm sometimes a little shocked about how the industry is just scared to pull the trigger and in a comfort zone. You could all get better. I could get better. The money that I spend on my travels, going to the Middle East and going to Europe, it's sometimes a scary number, but I do it. I go to programs. I've seen some of you from the Milken Conference to Art Basel, Miami. Well, that's more fun, to SALT and others. I want to meet incredible people. I want to hear thought leaders. I take notes. I record some things. Shh, don't tell anyone. And I just learn. But I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over my 20 years doing it, and it's well worth it from my own ability or my capability, coupled with my experiences and my network that I've developed. So I ask you to take a look at angelorobles.com. I do own FamilyOffice Masterclass as an LLC and a .com. I just haven't launched that yet. Right now, more and more people are knowing me from my personal brand. So it's angelorobles.com. Follow me across all social medias. And again, what you might have heard months ago, oh, Angelos programs are very, very, very long and deep. They might be amazing, but they're wickedly expensive. And yes, some of them are. But I do a lot that is intimate, more 3 to 4 to maybe 6 hours, virtual and digital, and incredibly cost effective. And yes, you're going to respect what you pay for. I've earned it from decades in the community through hard work, through making sacrifices, knowing a lot of families, and putting myself out there, learning, sometimes looking stupid when I didn't know much, and that's okay. Again, I've learned to think critically. I've learned to think for myself, to not always believe what I'm hearing one way or another, because I think how the world works is different. Not everything is going to be evergreen. So having that opportunity that I'm sharing with you, sometimes in a couple of hours, what took me years, a decade, or 20 years or longer, and you may walk away with just one great idea, that's okay. And that's an opportunity for you to learn from it and to run with it and execute. One of the challenges that I've noted in the family office community, they generally move too slow. It's too lethargic. And I see this often in many ways, but probably especially on private deals or looking to be active in that arena. Stop being so comfortable. Don't worry that I may be shining a spotlight. I respect and appreciate you all. I just want us all, including myself, to get better. So that opportunity is not going to come from being cocooned, from being siloed, to having a big ego, to not identifying your blind spots and not updating your competency. I need to work on those things every day, and probably you all do as well. Maybe I'm spending too much time in the South, but I do love some great Southern food and states, so sometimes I do take out the y'all. We can make this a little bit fun too. It doesn't always have to be so serious, although in my double-breasted suit and pocket square, it kind of feels that way. So I try to make this immersive, to make it engaging, and to bring with you real storytelling, not just me, but a faculty. So join us, look at what I'm doing, participate, be an active contributor where you're enhancing your knowledge. And then it's kind of up to you, take action. And maybe some of you will engage me further from kind of consultative work or other programs that I teach. I want to be here to be a resource. I want to provide value. Again, I've been in this community a long, long time. I don't care about being likable. I care about my ability to be competent, to identify my own blind spots and move my own challenges aside and continue to learn and know that I have interesting information to share that could provide value to you. And I don't look to sugarcoat it. I don't look to make it vanilla or down the middle. Those are all the safe things to do. Probably things I should be doing, but I don't. So hopefully with me, you get a little bit of color analysis. You get a little bit of a moment to maybe make you laugh. and probably multiple moments that you're going to disagree with, and that's okay. I don't want everyone to agree with me on everything. Challenge me. Make me learn. I get corrected almost every day because I make mistakes almost every day. But I am out there, and I am definitely in the trenches of these single family offices. If there's one thing I'll tell you, I am absolutely in the trenches every day. Sometimes, sadly, to some degree, 7 days a week. But that's me. That's a decision that I made. So on that note, go to angelorobles.com. You'll find more than enough content and opportunities to sign up and participate. Definitely follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, really all those platforms. I'm a pretty active force on there. And again, I give away some pretty decent content, if I may say so myself, at no cost. So I hope you all enjoy this. You can reach out to me and email me direct if you want. Angelo at angelorobles.com. I appreciate you and hope you